Hello, today I'm happy to interview Kristin Kastrup, a senior consultant for HR and training optimization at Intertek Alchemy. For nearly 20 years, Intertek Alchemy has been the global leader of training and consulting solutions for processors, manufacturers, packagers, and distributors of all sizes. Kristin Kastrup will also be giving an online webinar at Xtalks on Wednesday, January 26th in the new year, 2022, where the topic of her presentation will be how training technology helps engage and retain frontline workers in the food industry. Hello, Kristin, and welcome. May you please introduce yourself and tell us what inspired you to enter the field as a senior consultant, HR and training optimization at Intertek Alchemy.
Sure. Thank you, Vera. I appreciate the opportunity. So I have been with Alchemy for about a year and a half. And prior to that, I worked for Conagra Foods, which is now known as Conagra Brands. So I've spent quite a bit of time in and supporting the food industry, and have really been able to understand some of the challenges that are facing a lot of our food manufacturers and producers and growers in this very tight labor market, and being able to utilize Alchemy solutions to really reach the workforce, to retain and to grow effectively. And so that is one of the reasons why I am excited to do this webinar in January, to really talk about how you can use technology to help make sure that you are doing the best job possible to retain and to recruit, retain, and grow your workforce.
Great. And may I ask you, Kristin, what does a typical day at work look like for you? Or is there such thing as a typical day for you?
That's a great question. There really isn't any such thing as a typical day, I don't think. I do travel a fair amount to customer sites as a part of the consulting services that I offer. Some of it I can do remotely, working with customers remotely, but there's a fair amount of work that needs to be done actually on the customer site, meeting some of their leadership and managers and talking through some of their processes. So it kind of depends. If I'm traveling, those are always interesting, and I absolutely love being in manufacturing facilities. I love the energy and the passion that people have for their work, and it just energizes me to be there and be a part of it and feel like I am helping them make an impact with their workforce. And if I'm working from home, then I tend to do a lot of calls, obviously, and then I do a lot of the work, kind of prep work, so a lot of work to prepare to go out onto a customer site. And then if I'm out on the customer site, then when I come home, a lot of the work that I do from my home office is really to prepare deliverables. So I prepare a lot of documentation that goes back to the customer to help them. I've documented processes for them, made recommendations, and so they get an entire packet of information electronically back from me that will help them basically implement or launch the ideas and suggestions that we had discussed and agreed upon when I was on site.
That's great. And may I ask you, what is the best thing that you like about your role at Intertek Alchemy?
Oh gosh, the best thing, I have a great team at Intertek Alchemy. The consulting team is a really wonderful group of folks, very dedicated to their individual jobs, but then to the success of Intertek Alchemy as a whole. So I really enjoy working with my team. And then, for me, the magic is being on site with customers. I enjoy that more than anything, is being on site with customers and really understanding their business and the challenges and the opportunities that they have. And then again, feeling like the services that I offer to them really make a difference and really help them use the Alchemy training solution to its fullest potential, which also helps them make sure that they are utilizing their human resource to its fullest potential as well.
I see. And your webinar on January at Xtalks, it's going to be focused on the food industry.
Mhm.
And looking at Intertek Alchemy's website, I noticed and I found it pretty amazing how Intertek Alchemy has expertise across the different like specific food industries. So anywhere from bakery and snacks to beverage to dairy, all sorts of different things there. And I'm wondering, was Intertek Alchemy initially developed with the food industry in mind, or like, I guess they focus mostly on the food industry, or are there other industries as well?
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting. So the alchemy part of Intertek Alchemy originally started as training solutions that were developed for schools. And this is kind of way back in the day, way before I had any knowledge of alchemy at all. But that was how they originally started. And then there was kind of an evolution. The CEO at the time really understood that there was a gap basically in training that was available and offered for workers who work in a manufacturing environment. A lot of training that's kind of out there and available to purchase is really designed for people who work in a corporate environment. So someone who, sits behind a desk and has ready access to a computer and is able to, do a lot of training kind of in that way, or is able to take, at a day or a half a day or whatever it might be to go sit in a classroom and do a training. And he really felt that there was a need for training that would be available for people who worked in a manufacturing environment and the very unique needs of that workforce. So Alchemy sort of pivoted away from the training that was developed for kind of the educational community to really focusing on training for frontline workers and frontline supervisors. So folks who worked in manufacturing environments, who, worked on a production line, did not have ready access to computers. Many times English is not their first language, and it's a very busy, active, noisy type of environment. So that's really how alchemy came to be, and how the focus came to be on the focusing on the frontline worker. And I believe one of the first customers for alchemy is a very large food processor. And so they partnered together to make a lot of the original training courses. This food processor allowed Alchemy to come in and take pictures and do video to create the training materials so that it felt very, so again, as people are going through the training, they're not seeing people sitting at desks and sitting in offices. They're seeing people doing the kind of work that they are accustomed to doing. And then the topics, obviously, for a food manufacturing facility, or really any manufacturing facility, are different. They're different than the courses like you and I might take for the training that we might need for our job. So, there's a great emphasis on food safety and workplace safety and quality and transportation. And then the supervisor training that's available through Alchemy focuses on communication skills and the basics of engagement, and how to make the transition from being one day being a peer to the next day being the person's supervisor. So it's very specific to the manufacturing area, specifically for food, but we have a lot of customers who do other types of manufacturing, and our courses really resonate.
Yeah, so it seems very relatable for frontline workers and other people that the training is targeted to.
Very much so.
Let's see. And something I noticed that I found very interesting was in your upcoming webinar abstract at Xtalks, you wrote that a recent study by Deloitte and the Manufacturing Institute found that 77% of US manufacturers believe that they will continue to struggle to attract and retain workers, not only this year, but beyond as well. And why do you think that is?
Well, I think there are several factors that are impacting that, and probably the biggest one is just the really tight labor market all throughout the United States and beyond. The labor market is very tight. It's very difficult to find workers at any level for any type of job. So I think just kind of the overall environment is very tight right now to find workers. And then I think there's some other things too. There's with the pandemic that we've all been experiencing for the last year and a half or a little bit more than that, there's a lot of hesitancy in the workforce to take jobs that where you have to be in the presence of a lot of other people. And in a manufacturing facility, there, generally speaking, there's a lot of people around, and all the measures that all the companies have taken to really protect workers. There's still, I think, a little bit of hesitancy to think, do I want to go to work with 200 people today, or is that something that I personally don't want to do? So I think there's a little bit of hesitancy still to work in jobs that involve either large workforces or a lot of public contact, which are a lot of service type jobs. And then I think there's, I think we struggle a bit as a manufacturing industry to figure out how to appeal to some of the newer generations that are coming into the workforce that are very interested in technology. They've never known anything that didn't involve technology, really. So, how do we make manufacturing jobs appealing to some of those newer generations who are entering the workforce? And I think with some thought and some planning and being intentional about how you recruit, retain, and grow employees, I think manufacturing jobs can be really quite enticing to some of the newer generations. I think we just maybe need to shift the way we think about it a little bit.
I see. And I know you mentioned the pandemic, and perhaps can you explain a little bit more, or how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected the training of frontline workers in the food industry?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it was a pretty dramatic impact at first. When you think back, even though it sort of seems like the last year of 2020, but when you kind of think back to February, March, April of 2020, that was a really uncertain time. And we didn't know a lot about what was happening in terms of the pandemic. And it was, people who were working in jobs that either had large workforces all in the same place, or jobs that involve a lot of public contact, were really at risk, honestly, because we just didn't know a lot about what was happening. So a lot of the companies that Intertek Alchemy works with just did amazing things to protect their workforces, but a lot of it was a bit reactive, again, because we just didn't know what we were dealing with. But they put a lot of emphasis on employee safety, really making sure that people were wearing appropriate PPE, really working with employees about, if you're carpooling with others, please wear your masks, and things like that really helped, I think, kind of get through that pandemic piece. But people were, if you remember back to that time too, people were hoarding food products, they were hoarding, personal products and things, which are all produced in manufacturing facilities. So not only were the workforces in those manufacturing facilities being stretched beyond belief, and we were all working in a bit of an unknown and kind of a chaotic situation, the demand was huge for food products. People were not going to restaurants because they were closed. They were cooking at home. So they needed food products to be able to do that. And, and then kind of on the personal product side, they were hoarding things that for some reason they thought they needed. So the demand was huge on these manufacturing facilities. Sometimes the workforce was a bit down. People were calling in because they were either sick, or they had a sick family member, or they were worried. So there were just a lot of pressures around that. And, we were at Intertek Alchemy, we were really interested and concerned about how this would impact training. And would companies continue to train on the things that are really necessary to keep workers safe and to keep food safe? And the answer to that was they did. They were very creative. They figured out how to do it. They trained in different ways. They trained in smaller groups. They did a lot more individual training, a lot more e-learning. One of our very newest products is called Alchemy Playbook, and it is really a mobile learning application that you can queue up on a phone or a tablet or anything like that. So it's very individual. so you don't have to put people in groups to train. So, you know, our customers needed something like that. We responded very quickly to get that out into the marketplace to help them continue to train, and our customers did. They were just heroic, I think, in their
Yeah.
ability to continue to train people during that very difficult time.
Yeah, I see. And uh, one question I had, which may be difficult to answer, or there may not even be a real answer for this, is in your opinion, I guess, what do you think you would say is the biggest training challenge today for companies in the food industry?
The biggest training challenge. You know, I think one of the biggest challenges, and I'm going to talk a little bit, more about the generational piece, is the expectations of our workforce has really changed a lot over the last few years. And Gallup has done some surveys over decades and decades of research, and some of the things that they have discovered that have really changed with the workforce of today is their expectations around what they expect from their employer and from their supervisor have dramatically shifted. So, they really want to work for companies that have a very clear mission and value and purpose that is appealing to them as a human being. So, in the case of food manufacturing or food companies, the ability to, to do volunteer work that helps feed the hungry or donate food to food banks or things that are purpose driven are very, very important to our workers now. So it's not so much about a job, it's about having a purpose. And the other thing that newer generations are really demand from their supervisors is they don't want a boss, they want a coach. They want someone who's going to help them continue to learn and grow and develop and provide good, actionable, robust feedback to them about the job that they're doing, their proficiency, their performance, and their development. So those are things that I think are really important and that are driving some decisions within the workforce about how they do things, the companies that they want to work for, and what they expect from their supervisor.
Let's see. And in the upcoming webinar, you will talk about training technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, were there any challenges in implementing or shifting to this training technology?
That's a great question, and there's always challenges when you introduce anything new into an organization. So something new can be, new software, new training technology, new leadership, new process, new equipment, just anything that's new. There's always challenges around that. People get comfortable in doing things how they've done them, and so really helping, and that's a big part of what I do, is helping customers really manage the people side of change. So if you're going to introduce something new, if it's a new learning technology, how do you do your best to make sure that employees will embrace it and use it, and that the money that you spend on your learning program and the learning technology, that you'll actually get a return on investment and a return on learning as well. So I think really managing the people side of change, understanding that people can be hesitant, how to help people kind of work through that change process proactively, address resistance, communicate, don't let people be blindsided by the changes that are coming, and then really answer the question for all the different people within the organization, what's in it for me? If I make this change and adopt this new learning technology, what do I get from it? What is the benefit to me as a human, as a person, as an employee, and then also as a company?
Let's see. And you mentioned those benefits of the training technology, and I guess this is related to that, but what are the overall goals of the training technology? Is it mostly just to make sure people are doing things safely, or are there some other goals as well?
Yeah, in my view, there's several. So I think, I think one of the things that we really need to understand very clearly is that technology cannot, should not, and will not ever replace human beings totally. So kind of the nirvana really is to find the perfect combination of what humans need to do and how that can be supported with technology for the best, most high performing, efficient, effective teams. So I think that understanding that premise right away is that there's no, we're not ever going to have technology that replaces all humans. No matter how good it is, it's just not ever going to do that. So starting from there and understanding that what your business processes are, how do your humans work, and then how do we leverage technology solutions to really make the best of those processes. And again, to get a return on investment. So if you're making an investment in learning technology, you want to make sure it's working, but then also to make sure that you are supporting your human resource your human resource. How are you supporting them, and how does the technology impact them in terms of their ability to demonstrate proficiency, to be trained appropriately, to demonstrate proficiency, to get the feedback that they need, and to really be able to document those feedback conversations and encourage those feedback conversations between supervisors and employees, because employees want that. That's an expectation, that they want their boss to be a coach. And so they want that feedback. They want to know how they're doing, how can they do better, and then how can they continue to develop. So I think there's a lot of different things that learning technology can do to really equip the workforce to do the best possible work.
I see. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today, Kristin. I was very happy to interview you, and we are looking forward to your upcoming webinar.
Yes, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you too.